Hey, Emanuela, thanks so much for joining the show today. Would love to get started with a quick kind of background on your journey in design.
Sure, thank you for having me. I will say that I almost came into UX through the side door, like a lot of people actually. So I I love to say that I have a background in the internet, meaning that I was just like a kid growing up with a lot of internet in just early stages of Photoshop, forums, but like I really felt in love back then with visual design. So typography, layout, identity system. That was something that I loved, but there was like always this big, almost like push to the online, like how easy it was to being able to edit something, how things were always like in movement and how you were actually empowering people. So over time, I realized that I was curious about what happened after the screen went live. So keep asking why people are clicking one thing or ignoring another. So I will say that curiosity is what led me to UX. I didn't do any formal UX course. I do have a bachelor in art, so more of like traditional design. But it was a lot of learning by doing, learning by listening to others, but also learning by messing up and kind of slowly figuring out how design and behavior are connected. Um, it's massive in between space, between research, product, and people. And that is also where I feel at home. So we kind of fast forward and to today where I'm a senior UX manager at Mozilla, leading a team working on Firefox. Our work touch on everyday experience of millions of users. So when you're designing a browser, you're not just designing feature, you're actually shaping how people get access to the web itself. But yeah, I will say that for me, how I ended up in UX is because UX is where logic and creativity meet, and that's what made me stay.
Yeah, no, I love that. Kind of a happy accident, it sounds like, and you found it and you enjoy it. Well, I'm a huge Firefox fan. I use it, and I like, I used to work for a Google partner, so I know all the creepy data they have, and it's nice to have other options. But I think you kind of touched on this when you work for a browser company, you're literally designing for everyone, right? Like anyone you can think of that's using the internet. It's hard for me to think of a broader digital product to design for. So how do you do that?
Is messy. I mean, I know that I've been saying messing a lot, but that's just my honest answer. Because as you say, you're designing it for everyone, which is what people and books tell you not to do when you're entering a UX field. It's like, oh, there is not everyone. Ended up that for some product, there is kind of is. So I like to say that what we can do is designing for reality. If we cannot design for everyone, we can design though for reality. And reality is complicated and it's complex. It's people on slow Wi-Fi. It's people who can't see the screen or they have some type of impairment. Are people that are stressed, tired, in a hurry, multitasking with one tab open on work while there is another tab playing a
Yeah.
video. And also people that are trying to access content that is not in their language. So this is who we are designing for. For there is not. I think every one of us, if we're looking at our browser window right now, we have hopefully only one window, maybe more than one, with
Yeah.
multiple tabs that have a lot of different context and attention needed. So that's complicated. On top of that, Firefox has 20 plus year of legacy. It
Yeah.
was one of the first browser. We have very strong value working, as being a product from Mozilla. So we push from openness, user control, accessibility, and part of the legacy. So not just the legacy code, but also our legacy value still shapes how we build. I will say, when you say, okay, you need to design for everyone, Of course, we need to work very closely with research, all type of research, from the foundational one to usability testing, quant research, and looking at the edge case. Run as many experiments as possible without disrupting everyday life, and ask hard questions like, okay, what happens when someone does this, or they're ignoring, or they have some technological limitation to that. For, I will say, a lot of empathy that needs to be craft. Um, Realize that accessibility, especially for a product like ours, isn't just a checkbox. It is design. And same for microcopy, motion, timing. Every little piece is communicating something, but it also needs to be out of the way quickly, because this is what we want to do. We don't want to be intrusive. We don't want to interrupt people while they're trying to complete their task. I will say that, when you work on a browser, also just the meaning of MVP, which again is something that if we look like, sure, everybody needs to work on MVP, be sure. Well, when your browser, or when your product is used by millions of people, MVP means something very different.
Yeah.
And it also means something very different when your product runs on a 10 years old laptop, maybe in a library somewhere. So there are all these considerations that needs to be done. And also somehow realizing that, yes, like designing for everyone isn't about perfection, it's about showing up for people that are in real messy moments.
I love that. Yeah, it's not, I think a lot of designers need to hear that. It's not about perfection, it's about access. And like, yeah, I love how you're framing all these different scenarios. It's literally like everyone on their worst day and their best day is on the internet and using a browser in their, yeah,
Yes,
the day they're
yes,
moving,
it's
the day
just,
their Wi-Fi goes out, the day that, yeah, they're traveling somewhere and their flight gets canceled. Like every scenario, it's crazy. Well, cool. I think that helps us understand kind of the product. Let's switch to leadership now. I'd love to learn how you keep a UX team inspired, right? Like especially today where like AI is taking our job, the markets, all these crazy things out there. How do you keep your team motivated?
my way of being a leader is to keep it real. The work is hard. Shipping is slow for us. We cannot really ship quickly. Sometimes what we launch, if we launch, doesn't look what we initially designed at all. There is a lot, from my point of view, like to reestablish that that's part of the job. Part of the job is to be able to start from something and being okay that the end result is not maybe what you as a designer had imagined at the very beginning. But to stay inspired is also understanding and going deep into the craft, being able to share ideas internally on different level, and not be somehow offended if somebody else is asking question. Always keep that as a way to improve. Ask, does it still make sense? Could it be simpler? Could it be more accessible? Or even things like, do we need to introduce frictions to keep the team inspired? Is also like celebrating the small wins. Again, when you're thinking about a big product that goes and influence millions of people, a small win is a great tooltip, is a useful error message, is a tiny improvement in a flow. Maybe you're after years of advocating, or like 6 months of advocating, you're finally able to convince your product manager and your engineering partner to remove a part of a flow, and now the flow is better and we are seeing, I don't know, more conversion. So a lot of the work that we do is by design invisible. So I think as leader, it's important to take time to celebrate that win and to be sure that that feels good. It's also about giving people time for deep thinking, because if you're always on delivery mode, then the quality will start to slip. There is opportunity to create momentum even when you're in a fast environment. So, as I say, like I like to keep it real. I'm not going to lie, and sometimes things may take months and you need to rework over and over. But if you're still thinking about the real problem and about the fact that you're actually going to touch millions of people's life, there is some reward in that. And yes, like sometimes being slow in the initial phases when you're, exploring and kind of understanding the root problem, this is where then you can have real speed toward the end.
Yeah, no, that's great. Celebrating the wins is super crucial. I think a lot of leaders forget to do that, and it's very motivating when you acknowledge
Yeah.
those. But yeah, thank you so much for joining the show today. Really appreciate it.